On page 47, we have another world population graph. And my first question to you is, how is this different from the previous graph that we looked at? Well, what changed is that I didn't start way back at 10,000 BC. Now the data is simply starting in 1790, so relatively recently. I would say that this is a zoomed in version of our previous graph. The vertical axis is exactly the same, but the horizontal axis is a little bit different. So I wanted to show you that if we go to ourworldindata.org/grapher/population, and we're just looking at the world population changing over time, the nice thing about this graph is that you can actually see what world population was back in those times that were a little hard to estimate. So world population was 5 million, apparently, in 9,000 BC. Or in 2000 BC, we were up to 73 million. 200 million. That's less than the population of the US right now. So what I did in order to change this graph, for the graph that you see on page 47, is I take this left-hand dot and I drag it. And that helps me to zoom in the graph. So I could go to year 0, or I could keep dragging until I get to the 1790, which I believe is what I did. So it might be a little hard to replicate that, but you can see what I'm doing. I'm zooming in and reducing the number of years covered. There you go. That's the graph on page 47. So that's what I said on question 15, is that it's a zoomed in version. And can you see that there is an elbow in the graph around 1950? What seems to shift before and after that point? So here, this does seem to be kind of a critical point where we go from slower growth to faster world population growth. And that might be curious. I find it curious because around 1950 or 1960 is when birth control became more widely available and women reduced the numbers of babies per woman. And Rosling will talk about that in a moment. But we can definitely say here that growth before 1950 was slower, and after 1950 it started to increase more quickly. So it is good to relate and think a little bit more complexly about the babies per woman relationship to the population growth. And do check out Rosling's video that I have linked in our week 3 to-do list.